After the easing of COVID-19 restrictions, China is experiencing a massive surge in COVID cases. Hospitals are completely overwhelmed in China. Estimates of that more than 60% of China and 10% of Earth's population are likely to be infected over the next 90 days, with deaths likely in the millions. One of Beijing's designated crematoriums for COVID-19 patients has been flooded with dead bodies in recent days as the virus sweeps through the Chinese capital, offering an early hint at the human cost of the country's abrupt loosening of pandemic restrictions. China's zero-COVID policy, despite being draconian, has been an utter failure. Should the rest of the world now quarantine China is the big question. Joining us at this point is Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goel, former diplomat. Ambassador Goel, very dire situation, of course, emerging now in China. How do you view it and how should the world react?
Uday, thank you very much, first of all, and good morning to all of you, all my co-panelists. Yesterday also on a similar subject, I had mentioned very clearly that resurgence of COVID cases in China, painful and clear indication of the lack of planning, lack of sensitivity in China. Basically, there were all kinds of mismanagement issues really for the sake of ego of one person or one person trying to look good in the global eye. But the point really here is that China may be whatever it is, and they will take their own measures, whatever they are there to do. The problem is, how does it affect the entire world? And India is a neighboring country. We have people there. Chinese people come into India for business. And even today, there is a lot of traffic, air traffic between India and China. If you recall the first time 2 years ago when there were cases discovered in Wuhan, the students were actually brought back to, from China to India. And Italy, if you remember how pandemic spread from China to Italy, it is high time that besides just genome sequencing, that we should also put in place the same kind of COVID restrictions that we used to have during the second phase and the third phase in the interest of our own population and to limit the spread of the pandemic from China to India. The report which you have quoted also says that in 3 months, most likely 10% of the global population would be impacted. Happenings in China will not leave the world unaffected. And that is what I'm really worried about, particularly about what happens in India. I think yesterday's order to do the genome sequencing is one step. They should do the genome sequencing, but they should go beyond that. And as a matter of ample precaution, put in place the same kind of COVID restrictions, mask, distancing, etc., movement as they've done before. Thank you, Uday.
Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat, is also with us at this point on the broadcast. Ambassador Vora, very serious situation obviously emerging in China as they lift restrictions. Your view on the situation in the country currently and also how the world should react, respond and deal now with China? Deepak Vora, can you hear me? All right, I think we are having some trouble there with his connection, but we also have Major Mohammad Ali Shah, defense expert, joining us at this point on the broadcast. Major Mohammad Ali Shah, obviously a very serious situation emerging in China. We're seeing these horrific pictures emerging from the country, even though they're obviously clamping down on a lot of it, but still whatever is emerging is pretty scary. How do you view it?
Right, as we discussed this, and Ambassador Deepak Vora's connection had gone logged out. He's back again with us.
I will go to him, Major Shah, but that question was for you.
Right. I was saying with good luck. He brought in good luck. I was saying that because even my connection was a bit shaky, and the moment he signed in, it brought in good luck over here. Now, China is suffering through a bad coronavirus situation where they're battling the situation. People are on the streets. Just yesterday, a letter from the health ministry has gone viral on social media where they have said countries like Brazil, US, Korea, China, they're having a difficult time fighting COVID. So it's a precautionary measure for India as well. So it's always prevention is always better than cure. Now, yes, we have got a bit too carefree about the entire pandemic situation, forgetting the fact that pandemic is still very much there. Most of us are vaccinated, that's a different thing. But we forget, we tend to ultimately get careless with it. That, oh, okay, now initially, if you remember, in the year 2020, about almost over 3.5 years, 2.5 years back, almost 3 years now, in March when the lockdown was announced, and then April was the time when people were really scared even to go out and buy bread, even by exchanging notes. People were very scared with their sanitizing their hands every 5 minutes, and they were too paranoid. Now we are just roaming around freely. We are not bothered about it. So, but we should not forget that pandemic is still very much here. In fact, people have got used to it. It's a different thing. They've got used to the new normal. It's a different thing. But how should the world go around dealing with it? We should actually be extremely careful, cautious. Imagine this to be like a world war there. Where World War, at least you know the enemy. You know the enemy is fighting, so you take shelter in your trenches. Here, you don't know the enemy is invisible. And you're fighting against an enemy. You don't know where the enemy is hiding, when and how the enemy will ambush you. And the enemy, and here, the virus does not discriminate against anyone. Rich or poor, privileged, non-privileged, business class, labor class, no. Virus is going to be ruthless. It's going to just come and harm you, irrespective of your immunity. So we should not let our guard down. That's a prime rule which we learned in the forces, that never let your guard down. There will be cases where for months something may not have happened at a particular post, but one fine day, after months, they will be firing on that particular post. Then how do you react? So you have to be prepared 24/7. You can't say 9 to 5. Okay, it's 9 to 5 job, and at 5 I'm going home because it's made chutti ho gayi and it's time up, and the enemy will not attack now. Similarly, the virus can just come anywhere, anyhow, and countries are already battling it. So my take is, be better to be safe than to be sorry over there.
All right, let me attempt to go back to Ambassador Deepak Vora if he's able to hear me now. Ambassador Vora, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Ambassador
Can you
Vora,
hear me?
Yes. Your take on, of course, the situation emerging in China, also how the world now should react and respond given, the extent of the virus spread now in the nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Always a pleasure to be early morning with NewsX, to learn from you, from our son, Major Muhammad Ali Shah, and from my distinguished colleague, Ambassador Suresh Goyal. Their knowledge is far greater than mine. You've talked about China's, the COVID variant raging across China. Let me put it bluntly. Communist China sucks. It tells lies. A week ago, its top health body had said that the true scale of coronavirus infections in the country was now, quote unquote, impossible to track. And the officials were warning that cases were rising rapidly in Beijing after they abandoned their zero COVID policy. Sir, global experts, and I've seen this, sir, I've heard this and I've seen this on television, they are predicting that this zero COVID nonsense was an unmitigated economic and health disaster for China. Because when you lock down millions of your compatriots, they did not get vaccinated. They developed no immunity. One estimate I've seen, which is very frightening, sir, says that 5 million Chinese will die in the first quarter of next year. Now, sir, I take you back to what happened in 2020 when the first Chinese virus hit the world. The Chinese promptly banned internal travel within China, but encouraged their diaspora who had come for the Chinese New Year to go back to their countries of residence carrying the virus with them. And you might recall again, sir, that one of their official websites had a picture of what appeared to be mass cremations in India, saying India lights a fire, and then they juxtaposed it with a picture of a Chinese rocket, a very advanced rocket with its afterburner, saying, China lights a fire in space. This was Schadenfreude at its most egregious. It would be tempting to say that serves these fellows right. They did not allow the import of foreign vaccine. Now they have asked somebody, but it may be too little, too late. Will the virus cross the border into India? Well, we are their close neighbors. Of course it will, sir. We have to be very careful. Should we ban flights from China? Well, take a look at the business relations between the two countries. Areas like power, computers, mobile phones, etc. We are very heavily dependent on China, at least for the time being. So this is not an option. What do I anticipate? I anticipate that there will be more protests, there'll be more deaths in China. And what do I suggest to him? Ping pong, dingling, tingling, whatever your name is, get off your high horse, fall on your knees, and beg India to give you vaccines, because ours have proven to be the most effective. The lives of your people are far more important, Mr. Singh, convey this to Ping Pong, than your ego, your oversized ego, bigger than your belly that I see gets bigger by the day. So therefore, that would be my advice. But I'm scared of what is likely to happen. What have the good people of China done to deserve this, except that they have an absolute thug as their leader? And sir, who will he listen to? Who's his number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Nobody. He's everything. He's the god of everything, and not just the small things. So he doesn't have anybody to consult. He has only himself to blame, sir. I feel sorry.
Okay. Let me, in fact, now get in our next angle emerging on this big story on the broadcast. The COVID surge in China obviously has worried many, and it has sent alarm bells ringing in India too. The centre has outlined a series of preparatory steps, and Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia will be holding a review meeting with top officials and experts today on the pandemic situation. The government has said samples of all COVID positive cases should be sent daily to INSACOG, genome sequencing labs mapped with all states and union territories. INSACOG is a forum under the Health Ministry to study and monitor various strains of COVID in India. India has reported 112 fresh infections, remember, over the last 24 hours, down from Monday's 181, and the number of active cases currently stands at 3,490, according to data from the Union Health Ministry.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.